So hero augments on the horizon potentially as well to kind of open up some niche reroll lines. Let's see where we end up going.
Yeah, and to follow on to what you were saying there, I'm really excited to see if we do get any of our really specific lines coming out in Forces. It does seem like, yes, as has been the case across the tournament so far, for the most part of players, they want to bring down the variability of the game. Golden Prelude, exactly as you say, we've got a little bit more predictability to play with.
Also, I will shout out Tidal for using this specific arena. It is my arena of choice as well. Real recognized, really, it is one of those old school ones. Back in the day when we had the damage being delayed, that was like how you
ran away from the damage.
This one was one of the ones we used this one to run away alongside some of the others from that same path back in the day, but just to see why we're getting on here, Peter. There's two reroll lines kind of opening up on this initial observation from Tidal, and we saw him yesterday kind of being one of the players that was going down that reroll line alongside the likes of the Pilfer opening as well.
Well, I mean, let's open up the conversation a little bit, which to further what they were saying on the desk about the different kind of comps that can work well. Honey Monster, Cogmore, of course, we've got two pieces of here, had terrible stats. David was saying it was because it's contested. Are you of the same kind of mind as well?
Absolutely right. So a little bit of a secret here. I have lost 150 LP this season in 5 games of trying to play Cogmore. Just kind of saying, I'm no expert on this, but I'm an expert of what goes wrong when you play this competition.
You're an expert on what's been happening to our players in this tournament.
Yeah, and it's because it's so difficult to get this composition online when you're having your units cannibalized by the enemy team, right? It's like them holding that onto them, ensuring that there is no way for you to go. You're so reliant on those freestyle upgrades coming through here. And a very interesting tempo opener, potentially also opening up here for Cass. Look at this, right? Shyvana and Cassiopeia shot prompted against those, but he has the Eldritch online.
Of course, we know the school mascot is potentially going to be coming out in short order to make this an extremely strong start. Not going to be, in this case, of course, we'll be keeping our eyes out across the field for any particularly spicy ones.
Yeah, but two very interesting augment choices here, but goes directly for that all that shimmers here. And we were talking about yesterday the lack of that Mogul's Mill being brought out, but this time around, it is going to be brought into the mix.
And I know you've brought up before with your Mogul's Mill, if you can have that one frontline who can stay alive forever, then it's amazingly good. I think your particular favorite was the Wukong there, your Wukong 3-star being able to stay up and keep that gold generating.
It's just the fact that it's so going to be very difficult in stage 2 to get it triggered because a lot of the frontline units will be relatively squishy when you don't have a belt to slam on there. But Mordecai is in of his own right here, pretty solid units to freeze. That's a little bit ahead of the power curve. Should be able to start farming some gold. But even then, I've had games where I've barely farmed any gold from this item on stage 2, and then I've had to farm 50, 60 gold over the course of the game. It is so powerful. And I'm just excited to see whether or not that's going to be something that Kess can steamroll into a strong opening here. But look at the other side of the field here from CLF. Double itemization here on the front line, going for the full on-tempo game plan with the Dragon's Claw Hoffman.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was going to say. Maybe if there was a weak board for Kess to walk into, but we do get little blips on the left-hand side, as do some of these, or all of the organs, in fact, that have been picked up early on. I know at breakfast we were discussing Title notoriously picked up the Metabolic Accelerator in day 1. Didn't go well for him. Kaito will do the same thing again for Japan. What's your read on this?
So there are different ways of going about this, right? And a very big one to kind of keep in mind here is going to be the way that you're going to kind of look into things with, because again, it allows you the opportunity to sack for your teammates. You're going to be able to kind of tank the losses a little bit more effectively, because again, kind of like Tiny Titans here, is a shared HP pool all across the game. So with that continuous healing coming out here, you get to like around 10 extra HP per stage to work with in terms of like being able to kind of figure out where you want to go gameplay-wise. Yeah,
well, hopefully it will work out better for Japan this time. There was kind of the interesting, I think you were saying, back before, you didn't actually want to see Japan changing what they were doing necessarily, just the circumstantial things around their play. So I can admire that, honestly, from ZETA Division, say, we've got a plan coming into this event, we've got a particular style we want to play, we know it's good, we just need the dice to fall where they need to.
Interesting augment choices here as well on the side of Taro with that transfiguration here. So we'll be going for a very charm-heavy game plan in the early game. Going to get as many components to kind of play this tempo off. It's kind of something I want to grab for a second here because it was a double component opener, Peter, right? No free components, which means that any augments that will give you any of those extra components, extra combat power here in the early stages of the game will allow you to dictate the tempo of stage 2.
All right, so about 0. With a pretty reasonably good thrown together ball for the time being, but Oddjaw will be coming in here. You said this, we're talking coming into this one Oddjaw player we're hoping to see perform very well, picking up the 2 healthy to make this board last longer, and also having the Ginsu so early on along with that Syndra. This feels like a very solid start.
Yeah, we saw yesterday people full on opening when they picked up the 2 healthy just to get themselves as set up as possible for this Syndra reroll line. Again, the Rage Blade now has become one of the critical items on the Syndra now. The scaling of her ability with those additional casts, putting extra power into her abilities all throughout the game, means that any combination of items that will just allow her to attack and cast as often as possible is going to be much more valuable than raw AP.
Well, yeah, you can see here in this round, even if it looks like it's not going to necessarily get the win against Babzera, who has a Syndra of his own, we have got skin up actually at least doing a very good job of holding on with that extra HP, and Oddjaw not just getting it in a lot of stacks, but actually building up a very solid early win streak.
It's worth noting here is when you are playing 2 healthy, there's a little bit more synergy along the shapeshifter line as well, right? So you get extra HP to work with on those transformations as well. So super fun one to look at here as well. Opening carousel, there is a Syndra with a glove here, not the worst options of choice. Is Nops going to be a blocker here for the enemy team? Doesn't seem like that's going to be the case here, as we do see Kato going directly for that good old-fashioned Syndra on that carousel here. Get a brief overlook on what's going on here. Something to keep in mind as we do see the action unfold here. VCLF with that duplicator, we didn't talk too much about the start of the game, Peter, will be something to keep an eye out. Title the same as well.
Yeah, I want to kind of bring us out to the big picture as well. Notable, we've had several games where being able to put down a lot of domination early on has worked out extremely well. We're a couple of rounds away from potentially having GEEKAY Esports bring 2 players on win streaks through stage 2.
Yeah, that's going to be super interesting to see whether or not that is going to hold on, because they could tag into each other, and then you got to figure out who has the best chance of holding on to the win streak into stage 3. And that's a very difficult one to kind of do, and something you can't really plan around here at this point of the stage. So it will be very interesting to see whether or not that's going to be the case. As if they do face up, it does seem. Never mind, they do not face up. I am missing here.
To be fair, there's a lot of more Kaisers going around these days.
Board, right, as well. That's kind of like I thought in Milan, like, okay,
it's
sure.
a spot the difference kind of situation here, absolutely. But so we might see them both getting stopped a little bit short. It looks like on the left-hand side, VCLF is completely fine with this round. The Eldritch Brawl breaking out on the right-hand side, I think it might still be good enough at least. Has been doing a lot of work. We've got some stacks on the Syndra. It's going to be tight towards the tail end. This would be huge if Syndra could just finish the job.
I think she managed to finish the job there. Yeah, she did for Oddjaw, right? So,
oh boy.
I put a note here as well, right? So, right now it's a GEEKAY Savage in and around the standings as well. Here again, the fall streak not necessarily as relevant as it used to be in the past. You don't get the extra goal for it, but if VCLF and Oddjaw are able to dodge each other here, I'm going to be very interested to see how they're going to invest into keeping their streaks alive.
Yeah, that's absolutely well. GEEKAY controlling both the winning streaks, both the lost streaks as well. That's a massive quantity of money coming in. And if we're all about that Syndra reroll, you have to get up to that kind of reroll state faster. It's going to be huge for the game.
Yeah, let's see here. Now they are going to dodge each other here, so Taro will be taking a beating from VCL Sport here. And again, this is kind of predicted, as I was talking about, with the slam of that Ionic Spark in the early game here, off the back of those early components being dropped here. And when you get a tempo item that's very catch-all, very flexible in a 2-component opener, and you can play for a win streak, identifying that spot and going for it is going to be incredibly powerful, because again, sure, the damage at this point in the game will not be as big as in the late stage of the game here, but you are still putting a ton of pressure on your opponents.
All right, well, great news for Brazilian fans. GEEKAY Esports control both of the win streaks. We'll see in a second if they control both the lost streaks as well. Babzera, yeah, I think it's not quite as clean for the lost streaks as it is for the win streaks, but ultimately, that's a massive amount of money into Brazilian pockets heading into stage 3, making it to PvE.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see whether or not we're going to see people start holding on here. We saw someone with a Kog'Maw 2 more or less on the bench there, so it is going to be an interesting spot to kind of figure out how they're going to approach this here. Dobbs now looking towards a potential multi-striker line here as well with that spell play, something that we've spoken about at length here, really opening up an additional damage source for the likes of the Captain and the rest of the multi-strikers.
Yeah, well, talk to me a little bit about multi-strikers, because of course, we had a lot of stats to pull through from day one. Of course, we'll have more stats when day 2 is done, but certainly the numbers didn't look great for multi-striker, and one that really stood out for me was a very high 8th rate for the composition.
Yeah, but the thing is that when you hit the Captain free, you get the Captain reroll itself going. It's absolutely powerful, one of the strongest compositions in the game, but if you don't hit that Captain, you're then forced to transfer into the Callista as your main carry. Very often you can't find that 7 multi-striker vertical. You are going to struggle to stabilize and could find yourself in an 8th position, because again, when you're re-rolling heavily, you will end up like losing HP. You can't even find that Cassidy 2, which will make you stable with the correct itemization choices, or throughout stage 3 and stage 4. You will not have the time to make the necessary adjustments onto Wars of Light to the Callista.
Alright, well, it looks like we might be running into a little bit of a lost streaking from ZETA side of things. Taro will be one of those players who's been trying to put together a lost streak of his own. Does have pretty good items for the Syndra. We can see Syndras everywhere. There was a kind of discussion coming up this morning of saying maybe we are going to be seeing games with 4 Syndra players being played just because the stats back up. That may well be the right thing to do.
Yeah, and again, like, you just gotta have to accept the fact that we're gonna be seeing multiple people on Syndra, even maybe just in the early game for now, but even then, like, it is one of the best item builders to then go into the likes of the Karma composition that we haven't really spoken too much about just yet here. 3-2 Augment selection coming through now. This could be any 3 of the rarities, and will be the silver ones here. So stuff like Pandora's Bench Speed are very powerful in this format here, because you can buy yourself extra time to get those 3 stars online. You can also roll randomly into the 2 costs or 3 or whatever your opponents are trying to hold as well. So it's a really interesting dynamic, and you can kind of pull out a power spike out of nowhere.
Well, we'll see which silver augments come through across the field in a second. As you said, Pandora's Bench is exceptionally powerful. Worth noting, so the Brazilian team, they had the 4 streaks coming into stage 3. They now only have 2 of those. Japan managed to break a little bit of the hold. Look in the middle of the pack as well on the right-hand side. Title is starting to pick up a little bit of steam. We came into the tournament expecting him to be the big hitter for the Japanese side. Maybe this is the game that happens.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to see what happens. But with the fact you're on level 6 already, you're not going to be playing the Ashe Jax line you're talking about just a second ago here. But look, again, keep in mind here, Babsera could have just held on to the Synders, but now will be rerolling them instead, trying to get that Cassidy, but going with a very AP-heavy build here. And again, look at the economy on the side of Taro here. He's gone all the way down, just trying to make himself an absolute menace all throughout this stage 3 here, relying on that Mogul smell to get him back above the thresholds.
Yeah, picking up the augment to enhance the unit in the center of the board means that we were worried about the Mordekaiser being able to stay up and generating gold. He's an absolute monster in the center of the field, as we do see Title picking up win number 4. It feels like the field is starting to shift here, Weta.
Yeah, and I also want to talk about something here, right? So yesterday, ZETA, they lost the Wolves. They were all using the same little legend. All the ZETA boys now on the good old-fashioned Sprite, Peter. So
it's a classic.
It definitely is one of the classics here, so I'm going to love to see that come into the mix now. Babsera was the player we're talking about that had that Cogmore 2 on the bench now. Has found himself a very early Cogmore 3 here, and that's going to be one of the successful criteria here. Also has that Olaf here that can transform into a secondary carry, not going towards the Blaster line with that Tristana secondary carry, which makes the composition a little different. And I think that from most people here, speaking to Jubei, for example, right, really talking about how they prefer having the Jinx defend the line and stuff.
Yeah, certainly. I do like that the Hunter's got a lot of different ways to go there. We see Dobbs on the other side with the beginning of the Castellan and reroll, just getting deleted immediately. The single target damage here from the Cogmore is pretty frightening.
Yeah, something we haven't spoken too much about here either, right, as we do see Unleash the Beast being picked up here on the side of Title, I believe, right? It is a interesting one for sure, because the main things about Cassidy is you need to have some way to avoid having downtime. A lot of people use QSS, a lot of people use the Edge of Night here, but with the Sterix Gauge now providing that CC reduction for a bit of immunity even, right? Really strong, really powerful tool. It just means like you can kind of like go around and do other things with your items instead.
All right, as we come to our Stage 3 carousel, we will take stock of where we are, and we're looking at a very different situation now coming to the back half of Stage 3. We now see 3 ZETA Division members from being stuck in the middle of the pack. They've clawed their way up into the top 3 positions. What a change we were from the start of Stage 3.
Yeah, and I think that's just about like how you manage to navigate your position. We saw a very heavy investment from the ZETA Division side of things in towards this Stage 3. because the most important stage in the game at the moment is going to be that stage 4, and stage 3 really lays the foundations here for that as well. Here we can see one of the biggest adaptations here as well, with the charms now being able to pick up 10 gold for the price of 6, I believe, with all of those missing connections coming in here. Quick small adaptations here as well with the gold remover, getting the items onto the right unit as well.
So, okay, so we switch things across to an Akali carry, at least for the time being, and with the 2 Zergs, you said, going to be absolutely titanic to be able to hold in the middle of the board. We have now got a 3-item Kog'Maw on the other side, though. I just don't think at this point in the game, even with the Zergs, nothing stands in that Kog'Maw 3's way.
No, and that's the big deal here. Both on the senior division streaks being broken here. Title taking a loss. Absera is by far the strongest player in the lobby right now. Has hit all of the stuff here. But also for better with these the beast now, it opens up that Akali's secondary carry to do so much more work. When she dives into the backline, she will no longer be CC'd and unable to move. So very interesting to see, especially with the combination of that Edge of Night as well. Doubles her ability as well with the Hand of Justice, just fighting for that longevity in the fights.
Alright, so as we come to the end of stage 3, Title getting stopped in his tracks a little bit, but Kez managed to keep things on. Babsera from the GEEKAY side of things, keeping up a good head of steam. Taro, who we're checking with now, you mentioned, of course, the ability to scale up by picking up some more charms as we go along. Still, we've had some good items on our Syndra for quite some time here, and with the Cassiopeia paired for more, again, single target damage to complement the multi-target of the Syndra.
Yeah, but most of the time people will be going for Karma as the secondary carry in the competition. Like, Karma just goes into everything, Peter, right?
True.
Looking at this here as well now, Absera should be more than fine here, especially with that, even though that Elder Spawn will kind of be doing a ton of work to kind of remove the front line here of Babsera, but as long as this Kog'Maw gets to ramp up with the Rage Blade, he should be more than fine.
So, I mean, again, we came in today not expecting very much from the Kog'Maw boards here. Is this jittery just because it's not being contested, we're seeing the full potential?
I think so for sure, right? Because again, you also hit very early on, you hit on free too, that's a little bit ahead of the curve as well, so you get to power up, you don't have to exceed all of your economies to like maintain a strong board as well. That's a big deal here. That stabilization here as well is super important. And the very interesting things to note as well is we do get this overlay up here, thank you to our production team. BCLF has not rolled a single time so far this game.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see. I mean, you can trust that with players like Taro and like Kez, who've spent over, we've been just going absolutely crazy on that one. I'm really interested to see, which you said, stage 4 being so important, how this one works out with both teams having members on heavy win streaks coming in. But only, again, GEEKAY controlling those loss streaks towards the bottom. You have the upgrades coming in. Of course, we'd love to reroll those 2-star units as well for the potential for a big win.
Yeah, really excited to see what is going to be happening here. What is the game plan for the likes of Dobbs here? A player, as we heard David talk about on the pre-show, the player that is seen as the ace here. Ooh. On this multi-striker line. We know he is contested, you can see right now in the picture here, and that is going to be that Akali free coming through on that side of the field here. So, going to be way harder for Dobbs, who's already struggling here. And this is one of the reasons why you see spots like this you're talking about before with the multi-strikers having a very high 8 frame. Spots like these can be very hard to navigate correctly.
Yeah, I suppose at least the good news with Dobbs is he's not overly invested in the Akali as of yet. In the same way we saw from the other side of the equation. See how Arjo has picked up the featherweights to rely for the Syndra, who is armed exclusively with cast acceleration to continue to be a massive menace.
Just looking at how this fight is going to unfold, we do see that on the topic we've seen 2 Rage Blades alongside a Nash's 2 for Cassia, just all out on attack speed. As soon as you're going to figure out, it's going to be a triple gold game as well to work with, Peter.
All right, well, it does mean we at least keep an even kill, but I do want to draw attention as these augments come in to Dobbs. I believe we'll be dropping in with in a second. These are indeed his augments. We know the cast and reroll is being tried, but he's on 23 HP right now, and he still hasn't got his primary carry online.
No, that is a very big issue, but we see this time and time again. That is the risk that you take when you are playing into a relatively narrow reroll line, Peter. Sometimes you just don't hit, and especially when you're getting double contested. You see Dobbs now putting the Cathodons back into the pool, put him on part of the Pandora's bench as well, as he is going to start pushing up the table here, trying to find himself the Callistas of the world, the Camilles, etc.
All right, well, Dobbs hopefully can come back on a 10-loss streak right now. Very little room to work with. Babsera, his teammate, is still up there with a 6-win streak on the other side of things, but Kato, actually, say this is it actually is going to be the contestant. I'll apologize for what I said before. not the Cosmore 3 on this side of things, but the Tristana we've seen be very popular as a complementary unit.
Yeah, they're playing slightly different boards as well. That's worth noting, and kind of also explains the reason why we didn't necessarily see a huge investment into Tristana on the other side of the field. But we just see how impactful that Kassadin 3 here is once it's found not from a charm.
Yes, and I think I got misled on that one because of seeing all the Kassadin still left on the bench and assuming that wasn't the case. But hopefully things will be turning around as Title up at the top. We saw that big win streak coming in before, slow down a little bit, but now picking up the pace here again. We know the Kassadins, of course, will be very hard to come by one way or the other, but we have got the enhanced multi-striker here for a little bit more damage.
You do see now Kaz has gone for the Vanguard line that provides the very powerful action here, giving you access to disruption of the Nami. One of the biggest reasons why this line has become so popular is you get that very easy Eldritch Fletch into the composition where you don't have to use Elise, for example, as you see on the other side of the field. Terra right now is using Elise as a part of his Eldritch Port as well.
I'm really intrigued now with Taro picking up the Quicksilver. I don't know if this was a direct response to potentially having a whole bunch of Nami waves coming to your backline.
So Taro slammed this Quicksilver very early on here. And it's one of the different things about this you can kind of do here, like itemization even, sorry, is that you need like some sort of attack speed. It doesn't scale as aggressively as something like a Rage will do, but that initial burst of attack speed from the Quicksilver allow you to get towards those Nash's Tooth casts very early on, much quicker, and then the Nash's Tooth casts can kind of start resiting themselves a little bit, so you don't necessarily need like to have the ramping attack speed from the Rage Blade.
All right, so again, let's take stock of everything and where we are. We know we're in Syndra Town. Everybody is going to be going through here and trying to get as many in as possible. So we know the 3 stars are much harder, for at least for most of the people in the lobby to work with. So if you're one of these players saying I've got a 2-star in here, is that good enough long term, or are you needing to go into additional damage for your composition to really make it work?
It's going to be interesting to see as well here because, like, again, it is the biggest issue here, but I want to highlight the title selection here just for a second because we saw him have that early duplicator. He's used that on the likes of the Akali, get the tempo up, but also gone into that press the attack, Peter. Super powerful augment. It really gives you that really big true damage single target burst.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, just having an extra way to push the power of your board, it's classically been the way to do TFT, as we see on the right-hand side. The alternate Cosmo comp coming together a little bit more strongly with our friends on the Tristana side, and you can see perhaps they're still very happy with how things are going. I think completely content just to have the 2-star Tristana. There's just an appendage to the composition where Cogmore is everything.
It's also worth noting, right, Babsera's already level 8. He's just chilling up there. We've been able to go vertically, been able to start working towards capping out his composition here. Okay, Dobbs actually did manage to find that Kassadin 3, I believe, unless he found the same charm again. So, very big spike here for Dobbs, but he's on a 1 loss streak for now. Should be able to kind of turn it around, unless it's going to just sticks towards that Kassadin.
He's a monster! Once he gets stacked up, of course his skills will stack as well. This lifesteal is almost there, but it's not quite good enough. You can see Dobbs is leaning back. The disappointment on his face. He's not out, but he's not powerful enough to get the wins he needs. He's got no more lives left after this.
No, it's also worth noting here as well when you look at what Dobbs is doing, right? That Kato and Tara are like the next 2 people on the chopping block here for the likes of the ZETA Division squad here. So, because, again, it was a big issue for Dobbs was like he was so far behind in the HP race as well compared to the other players on the ZETA Division side of things, right? So they had so much more freedom to work with, to avoid that 8th. It just opens up so many more scenarios.
All right, we'll see. We'll keep our eye around side to see if... Oh no, in fact, we'll go there face to face to see if Dobbs actually up against Title, the member from ZETA Division, on the win streak. This is the worst case scenario, but the reward will be big if the Kassadin can make it happen. Juicy Kassadin's not getting a lot of attention for a while, and he is chewing through that board. Akali is at 3-star, but her attention's divided. She's not doing enough to bring the Kassadin down.
Yeah, the Title here has made some moves with the Golden Remover here as well. Unsure whether he wanted to have the itemization this way around, but interesting to see as well. Again, just shows the power level of these spells. The combo chops coming through here, absolutely powerful, but a nice little upgrade here as well for the likes of Dobbs here. Gets this Hecarim 2 into the mix as well, so that is going to be absolutely critical here as well. Speaking of critical things here, Taro on a 7 loss streak right now, Peter. He is definitely in line to kind of go down and really look at what's going on, but it's worth noting as well that he's one off that ever so important Nunu 3, which with that trick to spy class, Peter, would be 2 cards with a Nunu 3 in the front line.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the metabolic accelerator working out very much better than we've seen it here from before. I mean, is on the lower end of HP, but as you said, will be a lot lower than without it. Getting the time he needs to work within the game, as I believe Dobbs will hold on for another round. Just to go back in time a little bit, particularly for Dobbs to survive while taking the win streak away from Title, that seems like such a big clarion call to GEEKAY to say they've still got a very good chance of coming out of this, I want to say, laughably early game with the advantage.
Yeah, so the big front upgrade here being found, we talked about before right now. Big item decisions here as well for Arctor. Had the opportunity to pick up a spatula as well, but knows number one's here really gonna take his competition over the line. So get that temporary frontline item. Luckily he's not traveling as well, so was able to pick that up just in time.
All right, Taro, we'll see if you've got what it takes to go face-to-face with the Cassin in 3. He's an absolute monster, backed up by the red buff on the Callista. This time we've got the Cassiopeia in the mix. She's doing a lot of single target damage. He's focus firing him, following him around the board. But now Cassin is coming for his revenge. And this means Dobbs should be able to hold on. Syndra is not enough single target damage to take him down. Dobbs continues by a thread to stay in the game.
Yeah, Nico was baited in towards the enemy backline here, not protecting that Syndra at all, right? Just allowing that Kazan to walk freely here. We see Taro still on that loss streak, even though Kato on that loss streak here, even if he did find that upgrade to the frontline, Peter, so not necessarily strong enough right now. Even with multiple freestyle frontliners, this Tristana is just not dishing out enough damage.
Yeah, we've certainly seen the two parts of the equation here. The Kog'Maw absolutely delivering, the Tristana being a little bit of a disappointment here, and I wonder for Kato if there's going to be anything too much more that actually changes before his game seems like it could end up ending.
Yeah, and there's only one here as well now. A bit of a team battle between Arcjaw as well as Dobbs, but on that 2 HP right now, Dobbs do seem kind of stable as well, so should be no issue to make a charge up the table here. This could throw a massive spanner in the works for the Zeta Division squad here. Keep in mind that GEEKAY, even in both of the games yesterday, did not go in a single time, and even though it does look like it could be very close here as well, disruption from the Nami. Deal out the damage here, that is going to be the elimination here. Very critical fight, turning Dobbs out of this game, Peter. That is a big deal.
Taro goes on the same round, but oh my gosh. You could see the heartbreak on Dobbs' face. There's no secret there. Taro actually getting out just ahead because of the HP totals means that GEEKAY take their first 8th place of the entire competition, as you said. Zeta Division, they've now got a small advantage, but we do notice Title and Kato, they are still in the bottom 4 right now, and Kato, it's only got 1 life left himself.
Yeah, and that is a big deal, but we'll be interested to see whether or not he's going to be able to hold up here, because we are looking at a potential triple Zeta in the bot 4, Peter. And keep in mind that if there's a triple bot 4, there is no world in which the team can come back and grab the win. So, a very rough spot being potentially here as well. Playing as one of his teammates right now. No distinction have been going on. The Nami wave indirected to the backline here will mean that Kato will be taken out. Cass keeps moving on here. His strong tempo game plan has found him a 4 win streak now as well, but Babzera on the fight, which was the Kog'Maw line, just proving that much more powerful.
Oh boy, yeah, maybe if it had been Title in the opposition, it could have afforded to take the L there, but Kez on the win streak as well, but up above Arcjaw and Babzera, they are both win streak right now. You talked about the auto loss condition of having 3 players in the bottom 4. Right now, for GEEKAY, they seem to be on course for potentially having 2 players in the top 2, which of course is another way to guarantee a win.
Yeah, we can kind of see the adaptation here for the meta after what we spoke about earlier that they kind of struggle with on the GEEKAY side of things, right? Because they now have gone in towards really say, you know what, okay, we need to play a lot more than we did before, and I think that has been one of the biggest strengths of their game plan so far here. Title next in line, he's battling VCLF, but VCLF has that Mordekaiser free in the front line, Peter. Such a massive tank. Super difficult to get through here as well. So it is going to be a really big deal here for the global champion in Title.
I think he's going to have to rely very heavily on that Callista, though, if we end up with those big single targets. Of course, we saw before, Akali is not very good at keeping her attention on a single unit for any amount of time. We're going to be bringing out a whole bunch of belts, because I think Tile very aware he needs to bring himself out of his loss streak relatively soon.
But Akali in the backline, Peter, goes to the wrong way to start here, goes back onto the Kog'Maw, but he deals out the damage here very effectively. And that is going to be a heartbreaking loss in this fight for Title.
At least Tile keeps hold of the loss streak, but there isn't too much more ground to work with. It's not a horrific loss. and he's the only person with a major loss streak coming out as we check across to VCLF. The only player left from GEEKAY who's not streaking right now gets the win of his own, taking away Arcjaw's win streak.
But again, that doesn't matter right now. Arcjaw is more than happy to lose that fight because it means that VCLF is still more than 2 lives to work with right now, going into stage 6 here. So that is a massive round. You're really showing the fine print of the 4v4 format.
Yeah, and I mean, certainly in day 2, we've got to consider as well, our players have had the night to consider what happened in day 1, to refine their strategy, to see what worked for other teams as well. So I think you're absolutely right. Day 2, of course, the days to come, we're going to see the quality of the 4v4 play keep going up.
Absolutely here. So now we are seeing the on the side of things here, Arcjaw title here on the bottom of the screen. You see, like, this is the fight that everyone is watching. Just looking at the extra little legends being posted on this board right now. But because there's much better items this time around here with that RIYADH Hurricane.
All right, this is the one for everything. We have got the account. The backside, you get deleted. There's still a little bit of damage left. You can see that title just looking on impassively. Will take the elbow, barely survives. This is not looking good for ZETA Division at all. They're on the edge of the knife, and while they get a moment's respite coming to stage 6, title loss streak remains intact. It's a long way to go.
Yeah, and Babsari this time around giving up his win streak to VCLF. So VCLF again not taking any damage here. And there will come a time where the ZETA boys might have to take a little bit of a risk in terms of being able to go against each other here. And that's going to be an interesting one to follow. But again, this PvE round as well going to be so important here, because if Tyler's able to find that Catherine free, find that Kalista too, all of a sudden he might be back in the game.
There's also, we have Kez in the middle of that in second place right now. Again, a stark reminder of how getting first place in the game very much cannot guarantee you the win. Kez is, certainly pulling more than his weight in the game overall. The board is looking very, very good. Really the key components for this, the more guys are in place from the beginning of the game.
Yeah, one more Cassidy and all that is needed for Tyler, as you can see in the little PIP here. So very important to note that that's something we're going to be looking at here. Cass now very focused here, has to figure out how much can he sacrifice of his own game plan. He's sitting with 74 gold. Peter does not want to make any investment right now, but does not get his teammate.
Oh boy, that's going to be a huge relief again. Reminder after reminder, if title drops at any point, well, at least at this point in the game, where it's seeming like it could be possible. No, Akali into the backline does take a big chunk. Kalista is still up alive, still at the edge of knife, and the Crown Guard, Akali is barely staying up. She's on the absolute edge of title, down to just the Kalista. The CC coming in. I don't think there's quite enough there. The dash is good. There's not a lot of damage on the other side, but no! A heartbreaker. ZETA Division, the rest of the game will be played out. You can see in the camera there for GEEKAY Esports, they know this one is done. They're up 1-0 in the series.
You can kind of see just the inner workings of the competition coming together the second that Cassidy free was found, is how much impact that could have here. But was struggling to find that ever so important Kalista 2. Kalista 2 again would have cleaned out that backline alongside the Akali with that spread of the Rend. But this time around, Peter, it's going to be a surprising victory in game number 1 for GEEKAY Esports.
Yeah, I don't think people were really rating their chances at all coming in. I mean, you look at the history, particularly from title side of things, and say, he is a player who's literally been the best in the world, and in a dominating fashion, winning his championship. At the moment, we're seeing a lot of echoes, I think, from day 1 from ZETA Division in terms of how these games are going.
Yeah, and again, we spoke about this as well just a little bit ago when it was having lunch with the Branching Out boys, that they were talking about how the fact that this GEEKAY sport was not putting enough emphasis onto Syndra. Well, they came back, they watched their VODs, and this time around, they have put on a huge emphasis on towards the Syndra, really showcasing just how powerful this unit is at the moment.
Well, with the game decided and really just the last bits and pieces to pull out here, we can start looking forward to game number 2. So, of course, we'll be hearing from the analyst desk after the series is done. But in terms of during the series here, since we've got this opportunity to do so, we saw a very, very contested 2-cost game here. In terms of implications for the series, Weta, where should we be looking from here?
It's hard to say, right? Because we had a very similar game plan for ZETA yesterday as well, where they did lose game number 1 in a very close fashion to Wolves. This game is a little bit more dominant for GEEKAY than the Wolves one was yesterday. But again, they came back game number 2, cleverly fought out game with a lot of very interesting decisions being made along the way. But this time around here, it does seem like still have their backs against the wall, but they know the scenario. They've been here before, they've been on the stage before. They know exactly how to handle the situation. No matter what, I think that this game number 2 here, after they get a short break, they'll go in with a fresh mind and say, you know what, it's a new game of TFT. We know what we're getting into. Absolutely incredible scenes to look out for.
And of course, it's worth noting that GEEKAY Esports did go 0-2 in their first series against Branching Out, so this will be their first victory of the entire competition.
I mean, it turns out all they needed to win a game was one of the players to going 8th, you know? Like, they didn't go 8th in either of their matches yesterday. They didn't win any of them. Now, they took the 8th place, was able to grieve correctly, was able to send Tidal, Kato, and Taro in towards that ever so elusive bottom 4, securing the victory, so...
Is that the secret sauce, Peter? Is that all it takes?
I mean, all it takes is, Peter, it's easy, you know? We have the game plan.
Just go 8th.
No, I mean, just send 3 players of the enemy team into the bottom 4. It should be easy, right?
I mean, it certainly worked here. Oh boy, well, I mean, calling back to the Wolves game, as they said before, it did look very different in terms of what their most effective strategy was. It wasn't the reroll, it was the 10 portal coming in, the big verticals that worked out really well for them. From my side of things, I'm kind of hoping we can get back to more emphasis on that style of play if ZETA Division are going to bring this to a 3rd game.
Yeah, definitely is going to be something we need to keep an eye out for, right? A lot of interesting offense choices being made this game that we didn't see a lot of yesterday, right? We didn't see Only to beat a lot. We definitely did not see the Dragon Claw Augment come out either as well, right? So, but also again, as I was talking about at the start of the game here, very good understanding of GEEKAY of how they have to approach stage 2, right? Low component opener, just picking up item-based offense, just running the tempo.
And of course, for anyone who's kind of coming into the international scene, just a little history lesson about Brazil. If you go right back to the beginning into Galaxies and Slooper bringing, getting into 3rd place, bringing Brazil, TFT in general, I have to imagine that he's going to be watching here today and very much approving of what's happening in this game.
Yes, Slooper was one of the OGs of the Brazilian space, right? Really had a fantastic presence there. And I want to have something else here as well. Even though they did overall lose game number 2 yesterday, Arcjor did win that game for them, right? So it does seem like Arcjor is going to be the quote-unquote the hero, the ace player, call what you like, for the likes of this GEEKAY squad. So maybe they might be trying to target him a little bit more in the game after this one, right? For ZETA Division. So a lot of interesting things to kind of keep an eye out for.
All right, 2 players left in the mix as we just run down the clock here on an already completed game. Kez looking to salvage a little bit of honor for today's division by at least getting the win here in the game. But again, the stark reminder that it just doesn't matter if the rest of the team are unable to keep up with your pressure. Certainly the board we've got going on here is very good. And perhaps we're seeing a little taste of what could deal with this Syndra. From Kez's side, he seems like he's leapfrogged that kind of power level that's there for the Syndra with his board.
So we saw this from Kez yesterday as well. He was the player to bring up the 10 portal you're talking about. So it does seem like he's a critical player of getting to these high cap board states for the likes of the ZETA Division team. So a really interesting spot to kind of look out for here as well. And also worth noting, right, we saw ZETA do some really good stuff yesterday. They played Varus, for example, right? We saw Kato bring that out, even top 4 with it. Again, he wasn't supposed to be the ace player in that final game for them yesterday, but was the one that made him towards that top 4 against Wolves. So we're excited to see how they will be able to approach game 2 coming up.
I mean, what I love about this as well, we're talking about the different players getting the spotlight here. Of course, with all of our teams being in comms with each other, they get to share the wisdom of the players amongst well, especially while we're still in the 4v4 situation, there's a limited amount they can do while still playing their own game. But particularly, if we end up in a game 2 which is like this, where we haven't had it decided as of yet, you get the entire focused effort of both teams being poured into a single player.
That is definitely one of the biggest things about this format. Like, again, with the shared knowledge, the ability to play 4 games at once is such a critical part. You're talking about clear communication. So important here. So what could be the final fight of the game here will be showing out here. Again, Kez, strong individual performance from him yet again here. But it does seem like we should be going into game number 2 very shortly. But just looking at this as well here, just seeing the power level of this Seraph too, even on itemized, just raining down damage across the board. So something as well to keep in mind as we approach the other games. What do you need to play for when it comes to these caps?
All right, well, with the end of that game, we've known it for a while, but now we can make it a